Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Abington School Committee meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, May 24th, 2022. And if I could ask you to all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. After the allegiance, we could also like to dedicate a moment of silence to Caitlin McCarthy, our Abington High School senior that passed away. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone.
Can I say something real quick?
Of course, yes, I'd love you to.
That's still emotional. I want to thank Peter and Felicia and Mr. Bourne and the other administration for everything they did for the students over the past week. For giving them supports that they needed and for giving them the opportunity to grieve and express themselves and, give them the space to do that. It was very much appreciated. So thank you.
There is nothing worse than the death of a child. And so we're all grieving together. And Abington is a wonderful and supportive community. And so it's a time that I sit in my chair and I just try to focus on all of the people that are pouring out support because thinking about the tragedy is almost so overwhelming. I just try to think about all of the wonderful support we get. So, and thank you for saying that.
Thank you. At this time, we are going to go through a reorganization of our school committee and appointments to the subcommittees. So at this time, we're going to need a motion to authorize the secretary, who's Danielle Grafton at this time, to act as temporary chairperson for the purpose of opening nominations and completing the election for the position of school committee chairperson.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
At this time, I'd like to ask for nominations for chair of the school committee. If you'd like to make a nomination, please put forth that name.
I would like to nominate Danielle Grafton.
I'll nominate Chris Coyle. Are there any other nominations?
Are we seconding or just?
Not yet,
Voting.
just
Okay.
putting forth the nominations.
So I don't believe you have to second nominations in this case.
Perfect.
Are there any other nominations? At this time, I'll close the nominations for chair, and by roll call vote, each member will announce the nominee of their choice. I'll call your names, and you can choose. Chris?
Myself.
Heidi?
Chris.
Julie? Chris. Wendy?
I'm going to go with Danielle. I know you've earned it. And Chris, I know you're going to be great no matter what.
And I'll go for Chris. That closes it. Congratulations to Chris.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you to the committee. At this point, I'll ask for nominations for vice chair of the school committee. And after all nominations are given, I'll close the nominations for vice chair. So any nominations for vice chair?
Danielle.
I'll second her nomination.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair?
No.
Okay. We'll vote it through. So I'll just go down the list. I'll vote for Danielle.
I'll vote.
You're the one nominating. Heidi,
Danielle.
Julie,
Danielle.
and Wendy.
Danielle.
Thank you.
So Danielle Grafton is now the vice chair of the Abington School Committee for the upcoming year.
Congratulations.
I'll now look for nominations for secretary of the school committee. I'll nominate Heidi.
I'll second it.
I will third that, nominate Heidi.
I'll nominate Julie as well. Are there any other nominations? Okay. Danielle? your choice.
Heidi.
Heidi, your choice.
Julie.
Julie, your choice. Wendy,
Heidi.
and I'll say Heidi as well. So Heidi Hernandez is the new secretary of the Abington School Committee for the upcoming year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So thank you. In your packet, there is a list of the subcommittees. If you get a chance to get them back before the June meeting, no matter what, we're going to finish out this school year with the organization that Wendy gave us for this year. We'll finish out that year that way, unless anybody really wants to take over negotiations with the union at the middle of it. But we'll finish out the way we are. We'll finish out any school council the way it is right now, and then figure like July is when the next ones will take effect for your information or whatever, okay?
Great, thank you.
All right.
Thank you to everyone.
Up next on the agenda, hearing of visitors. Is there anybody who'd like to speak to anything related to the agenda at this time? Okay, not seeing anything.
Are you okay? Find something for the agenda interviews. Yes.
Yeah, let me do the approval of minutes first, and then we'll just skip to that. That makes sense. Okay. At this time, the reading and approval of records for our meeting on April 26th. After review, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes as presented or amended in that time.
I can make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So at this time, I'm just going to skip ahead to item A in the report of the superintendent of schools for introduction of the new principal. So Peter, go ahead, or Felicia.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
I have the pleasure tonight of introducing our new principal of the Woodsdale School. I would first like to thank the search committee that worked alongside us, and we reviewed a number of applications. We interviewed over 2 nights, and that was Lynn Mullen, Pam Neely, Stephanie Clark, Ashley Patterson, Heidi Hernandez, Chris Basta, Peter, and myself. So thank you to the committee. After 2 rounds of interviews, in-depth reference checks, and a site visit to the MacArthur Elementary School in Waltham, I'm very pleased to introduce to you the new principal of Woodsdale, Jennifer Baresi. Okay, all right, yes, good. Jen received a Bachelor of Arts degree in Psychology and Elementary Education from Merrimack College, a Master's of Science in Reading from Wheelock College, and a SEAS in Educational Leadership from Boston College. Jen has taught all grades K to 6. She's been a literacy specialist in reading and writing, program coordinator in literacy, and a district staff developer. And for the last 3 years, as I mentioned, she's been the assistant principal at the MacArthur Elementary School in Waltham. Over the coming weeks, she'll be working very closely with Mr. Hawes to ensure a smooth transition to the Woodsdale. So please join me in welcoming Jen Baresi to Abington. Welcome.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
I
perfect.
just wanted to thank Peter and Felicia and the search committee for their faith in handing over this gigantic baton to me to lead the Woodsdale School. Jonathan, I know I have some gigantic shoes to fill. I look forward to working closely with Jonathan and Peter and Felicia over the next few weeks to transition into this new role. I am thrilled and honored to be here, and I can't wait to get started. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just, if I could, say thank you to Felicia for chairing the search committee, and
Thank you.
obviously she did a good job because we have a good person who's joined us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Heidi, for the time.
Oh, thank you. Felicia did great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go back. I'm gonna go back to the order we had in now.
Sure.
First up, Kate Casey with the Wellness Department update.
All right, good evening, everybody. This is more intimidating than standing in front of 85 seniors that are running out the door. So thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, talk about the Wellness Department. I have a lot of pride for our department and what we do, so I'm excited to be able to showcase what we've been doing. Maybe it's in the presentation. There we go. It was going through line by line. I did not prepare. All right, so strengths of the department, constantly making adjustments to practice to meet the needs of the students. For example, as COVID to many departments served us a nice curveball, use a phys ed term, that we really adapted to. We couldn't do a lot of our cooperative games because of close contact. We couldn't play a lot of team sports, so we really had to change our way we did instruction. The cool thing that came out of that were a lot of new games and activities that kids enjoyed and that we've now put into our common practice. So a speed bump that we turned into a positive. Updating the curriculum, it's an ongoing basis. Big one recently is always drugs. Unfortunately, there's new trends with that. If I go back to my short career, I started in 2012. Vaping was not in the curriculum. Vaping is now a lot of the curriculum, and cigarettes are not. And cigarettes are now on the rise, so cigarettes might be coming back into the curriculum. So we're constantly changing what is happening in society to teach the students. Minding Your Mind was a program we brought in this year. The grade 9 and 10 students got to see it in May. Well received, but talked about how to take care of yourself and your mental health and when to seek help. So that was a great program. But again, we all know the kids are struggling with their mental health post-COVID or in general. So bringing in these programs to help the students. Signs of Suicide, this is a program that we brought in the 2014-15 school year. Thank the Michaela Guerrero Fund for funding that for our school every year. We're using it in grades 7, 9, and then there's a follow-up in grade 12 that we use with our Life 101 classes. And then a big highlight for us, we completely revamped the high school program of studies in fall of 2018, which seems like a while ago. But as a later slide will show you, our numbers are growing in our department. We are popular. Kids like taking our classes, which is a great thing. So that flipping of the program clearly worked because we have retention. We get more and more kids every year that are taking our classes. So I'm hoping to always change and maybe get a trickle down middle school, a couple middle school changes going forward. All right, areas of improvements. Over time, there's been a reduction in health and PE instruction time. That was minutes in the class. I didn't outline on there, not number of classes, minutes of the class. So I'd love to get back to 35, 40-minute instruction time with our elementary classes. I will always ask for more department time for in-service days. I'm very excited to work with my department tomorrow, May 25th. We have some time together, but we don't have a lot of K-12 time as a department, and I think that's something that we would benefit from more time together. Often, or the Woodsdale and Beaverbrook teachers are departments of one in their building, so it's hard to have those one conversations about what's going on in your classroom. The gym, the PE classroom is a unique space, so it's sometimes nice to have ideas bounced off other people as they kind of happen. Meaningful professional development to expand those health and PE offerings. Thanks to Zoom, this has gotten a little bit easier, but I do think there's more that we can do. I had set up for an in-person PE programming to happen in April of 2020. We've yet to reschedule that, so hopefully that's going to be something that we can reschedule. New games and activities, going off that professional development, there's new stuff out there. I want to be able to expand what we do with the students. Another area I would like to improve on is our vertical alignment within several units of the health curriculum. As I spoke before, sometimes we don't have time in our department to work with one another. So I'd love to have more time to figure out what grade 5 is doing and how to build the grade 6 curriculum or the grade 4 curriculum. And it's usually between the buildings where that communication doesn't always happen. So more time with that. And an area of improvement that we can't control, but I think it is an area that needs to be improved upon is the mass curriculum frameworks for health have not been updated since 1999. there's a lot of change that has happened since 1999, and I would really like those frameworks to be updated so that we can do a bit more. Yeah.
Do we know where they are with that? I know world language was way behind too, and they did finally just pull through and release the new frameworks.
Yeah,
Is there any moving and shaking on that?
Yes, so the last I had heard, and I actually got excited by it, was spring of 2020, when everything happened. They were supposed to have the first round released. We've not gotten to the point where the first round has been released. According to the website, they actually said 2018 was supposed to be the first round released. Again, that hasn't happened. So I would like for them to hopefully do that. We are the most outdated out of all of them. So hopefully we're in the queue. Yes. Anything else? Cool.
I had one question on that. I don't know if I should hold it to the end. I was just wondering for the PD time,
The in-service days?
are we going to get half days, full days that are fully departmental choice for where the departments can work together district-wide for this upcoming year?
Yes, so pre-pandemic, I think we did a great job with that. Pandemic, we had to do some district and state initiatives, but
Yep.
we're going back and it looks like it'll be more days for professional development, kind of back to where we were.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Kate, what is,
Yep.
how long is the PE time now in grades K through 5? I know you said get
Oh,
back
sure.
to
I actually-
40. Go ahead. Yes.
The next move. I have it outlined. So the next 3 slides are by building. So this is K-2 Beaverbrook, then there'll be a Woodsdale side, Biddle, and then there's a high school one in there as well. So left side's phys ed, left side's health, right side's phys ed. So right now, K-2, but also extends to grades 3 and 4. They get a 30-minute health education class a week and a 30-minute physical education class a week, taught by the same teacher.
Yeah.
So what I did for these next slides and bullets is I talked with the teachers that teach these grades and went over like their areas of focus, their summer thoughts, their day one, how we're going to meet the needs of the students, what are your overall areas of growth that we can work on with the kiddos. So I won't read them all to you guys, but I will highlight a couple of them, working on self-advocacy, empowerment, and self-confidence with the younger grades. This is a theme that you'll see through all the grades, but we do start this at the younger grades. Empathy and interpersonal relationships are big with the younger ones, learning about themselves, learning about others, and how to manage their relationships. And then phys ed, yes, we go through motor skills, motor units, improve their motor skills and social skills, but we do it through fun, challenging games and activities that also promote self-expression and social interaction. I should have started with this, I forgot. Their last slide is all about the Human Growth and Development Unit. I thought I'd line that separately. I didn't include it in this, so
Okay.
I meant to add that at the beginning. All right, so grades 3, 4, so looking at Woodsdale, again, 1 time a week for both classes, same teachers taught both sections. Again, going through some of those same trends that you'll see throughout the presentation. Do a little more fitness-based in grades 3 and 4, using the parachute, fan favorite. And I did want to outline safety. It's on the bottom corner. It's a little hard to see from here. But this is where we do, Abington Fire Department comes in with the classes. We also talk about bike and train safety. So as these kids, grades 3 and 4, become a little bit more independent, we can keep them safe with some independent skills. Any Woodsdale question? Going on 5 through 8, so because they're a school, I kept with that school trend, but I put 5 and 6 on one side and 7 and 8 on the other. So now our classes are 47 minutes, typical class length. The biggest difference is 5-6 is more on the elementary, 1 time a week for health, 1 time a week for phys ed meetings. Health education for grades 7 and 8, they get 30 classes a trimester. So like maybe days 1, 2, and 3, they're on with health, and days 4, 5, and 6, they have another elective. And then physical education, each trimester, 60 days, they get 60 days of phys ed, just across the board. And again, seeing those common trends throughout. Then. Now we're looking at the high school curriculum. There's a lot more moving parts to this. So physical education is a 4-year graduation requirement. The classes that are offered are lifelong fitness and competitive games. We group them by freshmen, sophomores, and then junior, seniors. Then the juniors and seniors can also take CrossFit and personal fitness. We can use our gorgeous fitness center to teach kiddos in those classes. Then in the middle, I have health education. They need 2.5 credits, a graduation requirement. Most kids meet that through the 9th grade health required course. Comprehensive health covers a little bit of everything. And then they have a bunch of electives to pick from, and the parentheses are the grades that it's offered. So current issues in health is a grade 10 offering. Grade 10 has a lot on their plate, so there isn't too much room for electives, but they do have one they can take. And then we have child development for grades 11 and 12, first aid, CPR, and 8D. So they become fully certified through the American Heart Association in that class. And then Life 101 is for seniors only. Here's a let's throw everything at you before you graduate class. We'll give you a little bit of everything. And then we do offer a hybrid course, which again goes back to meeting the needs of the students. Not every student wants to play team sports. Not every student wants to engage in more active physical fitness. So this course is called Mind, Body, Spirit. It's an elective for 11th and 12th graders, really focusing on emotional, mental, and physical health. So we're learning about these skills in the classroom, and then we're practicing them. So we're learning about yoga, and then we call the auditorium our Zen Den, and we go and use the auditorium and do yoga. We go for mindful walks. So that's a really fun class, nice stress reliever for the kiddos.
Kid, I really like the idea of that Life 101. It makes me think about stuff Danielle brought up, like when the guidance department was here, about just life in general when you get out of here and prep for that, maybe not necessarily prep to go to what school you're going to next. So I think that's great.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I will. Miss Daisy and Miss Howell ran the Credit for Life program a couple weeks ago with the seniors over at the NYSA Columbus. It was great. We had a bunch of kiddos there. Learned a ton. I learned a lot. They weren't excited when they only won $250 in a fake scratch ticket, but that's okay. But it's pretty much all the stuff we kind of asked the kids at the beginning, like, what do you need to know? What didn't fit in a curriculum somewhere that we can do it with you? Miss Daisy's brought kids up to the town hall to register to vote on National Voter Day. They did take a tire off your car and change a spare tire demonstration.
Oh, good.
So a little bit of everything that we
Yeah.
can do with the kids. It's pretty fun.
Love that we have it. I hate that it's just an elective and that not all kids get it. How many kids would you say eventually, well, since it's only a senior class, how many seniors take that Life 101?
I believe, don't quote me, I believe Miss Daisy has 2 sections this semester, that I know, and she had
2 sections this semester.
this semester, she had
4 year.
2 or 3 last semester, sorry, in the fall. So, if there's 25, 26 kids in there, at least 100,
Okay,
if not a little more.
or more than half.
So yeah, so more, I would say more than half the senior
would
class.
take it if they could. I mean, I know just for my kids, everybody wanted to.
Yeah, it's fun.
Wanted to take that class and they couldn't
Yeah.
all get in, yeah.
Well, also the CPR, first aid, I know firsthand, I've heard stories of students who have taken it, who have immediately applied it in the real world. So again, thank you for putting things out there, like those 2 courses that kids can actually go out and do something.
Thank you.
And feel
Yeah.
successful.
We currently have 73 kids enrolled in first aid right now, so that's pretty exciting. So hopefully there'll be 73 more certified individuals out in the world.
For the first aid, I think, for the certification, or the CPR,
Yep.
Kids and families, they have to pay for that. But is there something that needed funding, I think?
Yeah, so this is year 3 of that course, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first year, AEF did a grant for me and
Yeah.
paid for it. Last year, I got a nice private donation to pay for it. And then AEF is going to do it again this year.
Is that something that can be worked into our budget?
Yes, it definitely can be. I also just had this conversation today with AEF going forward somewhere. And I have to find it. I know it's out there. I believe that there is a mandate that if it's in the schools offer it, that DESE, it's reimbursable.
Good.
I have to find it. I know I saw it somewhere. I know I didn't make it up, but I haven't found it yet.
That's great.
All right. All right, moving on to human growth and development or sex ed unit. I figured I would outline this. This is usually the one we get the most questions on, so I'd rather talk about it here. So elementary, specifically grades 1 and 2 are personal safety, your private parts, and boundaries. That's pretty much it for the younger grades. Middle school is where most of the information comes from. And if I can do the teacher point. Grades 5 and 6 is here. These 3 bullets are your main lessons. So change is good is taught to all students in the traditional classroom. Teacher goes in, learns about changes during puberty. Then there's 2 reproductive system lessons. Those are split lessons. So the students are split by male, female. They both learn about the opposite gender, but they don't learn in the same instruction room at the same time. And then they come back together for lesson 4, which is again, all students, and it's more embryonic and fetal development. How did we get here? It's kind of a fun one with the younger kids.
Is that just grade 6, Kate?
We're doing it, so, good question, Chris. So we originally put this plan together for like, this was gonna hit 2020. This was my conversations I started with
Yeah.
Mr. McCurtain
Yeah.
in 2019. So 2020, all grade 5 and 6 were gonna get the same, and then we were gonna kind of be like, how did this work for this class? Was it a little bit geared towards 6th
Like a
grade?
pilot.
Piloted.
Yeah.
And then the plan was keep with grade 5 and then make edits and tweaks to grade 6 and then trickle up
Okay.
through 7 and 8. Unfortunately, between the pandemic year 2020, a couple classes got the first lesson and then that was it.
Yeah.
Last year, we got some of this in, but it was choppy because half the kids were here and it was a little messy. So this is kind of like year 1 of this actually going into implementation.
Okay.
Again, I would love to revisit and see how it goes.
Yeah.
After, we are done. It was March.
Okay, yeah.
We try to build rapport with the kids, so it's not done like
Yeah.
September, October.
Right, yeah,
We
no.
avoid the vacation times. March is, there's not a lot going on in March, so that we typically try to get all 4 lessons done through like February and April vacation.
Okay, I mean, I think it's because I know I have 6th grader. So the paperwork came home,
Yep.
but I don't remember seeing it last year. That's the only reason why I asked.
Yeah, so
And it could have
we
last year, but I just don't remember, so.
We do send an outline of the 4 lessons. We do send a why it's gender inclusive, why we want to do the 2 lessons combined with the
Yep.
kids. So yeah, we have all that is sent home.
Yep, I remember.
And then 7 and 8, we're re-going over the reproductive anatomy and function. The kiddos are a bit nervous and anxious about what they learned a couple years ago, so we reiterate it, make sure everybody's good and on the same page. And then grade 8, we do talk about STIs, sexually transmitted infections. And then high school, all topics are introduced and discussed. Kids will ask questions. Kids bring up very interesting questions. We will answer them. We want to give them honest, factual, evidence-based answers, and they're not getting answers off of social media or YouTube or wherever else they can access information. One note too, under human sexuality with gender, I'm often asked about the elementary grades. The only time that ever comes up is when we talk about family units, family life, what makes up the people that live in your home. Could be aunts, uncles, a mom, a dad, grandparents, 2 moms, 2 dads. That sometimes is brought up in the family life unit in the younger grades.
Thank you, Kate.
Sure thing.
Anybody have any questions?
I will throw my enrollment slide up now.
Okay, I just had a quick one, I guess,
Sure.
if you guys don't mind for a second. It was
Yeah.
just about 7th and 8th grade, so the phys ed. So they have it every day for its trimester?
Correct.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yep. Every
Okay,
day for-
I'll learn that next year.
Bring sneakers. I have a question as far, is Mr. McCurtain here?
Yes.
Hi. So, well, actually, this is, I guess, more for K through 2 and Mr. Hawes, 5, 6, 2. So, the 30 minutes, it used to be, how much, did you say, Kate, like 45?
35. I'd say recent history, it was 35. It may have been longer, a little bit ways back, so we'll go 35.
So is there a way for them to get that time back? Taking a little bit away from maybe math or something? I know that there's a lot of time spent on that per day. I guess at the elementary level, Matt, I'm sorry.
I think for equity purposes, we've just tried to make sure that we're scheduling all of our specialist caseloads similarly.
Right. So is there like any room in the budget to add some?
Without taking away from something else, we'd have to add more time to the day.
We don't want to do that.
Well, honestly, we'd love to do that. That's the give to get in the budget piece.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it seems important for kids, especially at the younger grades, to, have physical education and get out there. And especially nowadays where most of them, that is the only time they get out because otherwise they're just home. And some of them don't play sports, youth sports. Parents don't know how open it is. So I don't know. I think it's just something that, it's 5 minutes, that we can try to do
So,
something. I don't know
Again,
what.
we'd have to set the takeaway from something else if you don't extend the day.
I'm just saying, can we
We look at it.
look into it?
We
Yeah,
always
awesome.
look at it. I would rather be open with you about the difficulties rather than just kind of say, we'll look at it and know that, I know the challenges that are involved. So I don't mean to be so negative about it, that we don't look at it, we do. But those are the challenges that we have to get through to get it.
Do you help look at it, or is it just like administration that does it?
No, I help with scheduling.
Okay.
A lot of times it's hard to help when I don't live it. I
Yeah.
don't live the K-2 schedule. I used to. But yes, I do. I work with the principals to try to help with scheduling.
So, yes, but PE and art and music and math, they're all,
I know. I remember a couple years ago, we had a mom come in and asked if we could she was a PE teacher in a different school. So she asked if, and they did twice a week. And so I knew we couldn't do that, but I don't know if we could do something for a few minutes extra. But just something to think about.
I think, especially at the middle school level, it just becomes more and more important as the students get older. So you've got no argument that health isn't critical, it is.
So we'll look at it. Good.
I'll always take it.
I actually had a question. Actually, I wanted to tell you that I appreciate the way that you set this up. I think it looks really good. I also just wanted to point out, because I don't think it was stated yet, that this curriculum, will be online, the wellness curriculum, as of maybe next year, fall maybe?
I think sooner than
It's in progress.
Awesome. So that way, all parents are aware of what the students are being taught, their children are being taught in all grade levels. So the curriculum, the books, the videos, whatever, maybe not, the whole thing will be used from those portions, but there'll be a blurb about it so that people know where the information is coming from. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it'll be before next year.
Awesome. Even better. Thank you.
Sure thing.
I have one other question. I'm just wondering, where we are. I know that we've met with some community members about substance abuse, and I know CARES is looking into things. At our school, we had some programs taking a toke if they had known Johnny's Ambassadors and Taylor's Message. I don't know, how have we been doing with, and I know assemblies disrupt and ruin the lives of some of the teachers as they're trying to get their content out there. How are we doing with getting that information out to kids? I'm not on top of the assemblies that we've done, if we've had them in this year.
Yeah, so the one that I brought in, the Minding Your Mind, substance abuse was weaved in through their stories, but their primary story was they used substances as a coping mechanism, so the underlying problem that they were dealing with is their mental health issues. So it was discussed through that program. I didn't do anything for a little while because everything was through Zoom. And assemblies are hard to get kids to pay attention to. Zoom was worse.
Yeah.
We did do one last year. It wasn't me, it was the high school did, I can't think of his name.
Chris Aaron?
No, it was, oh shoot, I feel bad, I don't remember his name. He did, he played multiple people and he acted it out. It was a one-man show. It was great. But that was about substance abuse. I have been talking with Melissa Cook at COPE and have offered to go in and tell them like what we're doing on the side of the school. I will say where the curriculum wasn't updated since, or hasn't been updated since '99, I don't want people to look at that and go, oh, okay, vaping isn't mentioned. Abington doesn't talk about vaping. It does say other substances. So we do bring those things in. I think at face value, the frameworks doesn't look like it helps us based on what's in there. There are other groups to bring in. I'd love to. Prior to the pandemic, we brought in Karen Treatment Center. We had a parent piece and a student piece. I'm a big fan of a parent piece to couple that with the student piece, so maybe there's some home dinner, forced car conversations. But we haven't done anything lately in terms of direct instruction with drug abuse.
Kate, was it Drug Story Theater?
Drug Story Theater came in, I just used part of the pandemic.
It wasn't that though last year.
No.
Okay.
No. Dirt, yes.
Dirt, no.
Yes, thank you, John something. Dirt was the name of the program that we did.
But if we need it, we have funding. Is that, it's not money that's in, so we're good, we're covering things, you're satisfied?
Yeah, I think through the health curriculum, I'm happy. We could always do more. I'll say that with 30 classes at 7th and 8th grade, we could do more. I haven't found a vaping presentation. There's not a lot of people that will come in, like a Chris Herron that,
Yeah.
suffered through this and now talks about a story. There's not a lot of people that do that with vaping. So if anybody knows of any vaping.
I can mention the one that we did off, like, later.
Yeah, Karen Treatment Center was great when they came in. It was very like scientific. I think the parents got a lot out of it. We do have a program hidden in plain sight. It's a mock bedroom. I have that in storage. I used to try to do it with like open houses and stuff so parents could walk through. So hopefully if things are a little bit more normal, I'd be happy to set that back up.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have anything?
Go ahead, I'm wicked, sorry, go.
No, just one comment. I remember sitting over there the first time you started talking about the changes and how PE was going to come, and I was so thoroughly excited to see that we were adjusting PE to kind of suit real life. Like, not everyone was going to be doing all the same things. And I think the numbers completely justify it. And I know even at the elementary levels, the teachers do a phenomenal job at integrating things like yoga and ways for students not just to do things at home for themselves, but to kind of talk about it within the home, like, hey, this is, I know I have someone who comes home every once in a while and says, I think we need to do some deep breathing and kind of take it back a little bit. So for your department to kind of even be ahead of the curve when DESE didn't, have something for you to go, okay, this is what we need to do, want to say thank you for being heads up, for going above and beyond for our kids and providing something that I think is extremely valuable to all of our students.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I couldn't do it without my awesome staff, so for them to say, yep, what do you want to do? How do we do it? Let's make it happen. So I appreciate everything they do as well.
Wendy, you had one more?
I just wanted to point out about the high school and the sex education development portion where it's, talks about a lot of deep stuff, dating violence and genders, pregnancy. I'm sure all of that comes to play. And I think that's just huge because even if they're not, you don't think they're paying attention, it's still like in the back of their head, and just knowing how to react in those situations I think is very helpful. So, and even for the boys to hear all of that, I think it's great. So
Yeah,
thank you for
all the
doing
kids
that.
to hear it and to be able to ask anonymous questions to get a real answer.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to say what Heidi said about keeping things updated, and I wanted to say what Wendy said about keeping it real. So, what they said.
Right.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Anybody else, or, no? Yeah, Rick, go ahead, it's okay.
Are the schools able to tap into, the cannabis mitigation money that the town receives for substance abuse education program?
We don't tap into it through the town that I'm aware of. I mean, that may come through the state somehow, but I'm not aware of through
It
the town.
becomes part of local receipts, which then becomes part of our, is my understanding.
Well, there's two pools of money the town gets. One is the local tax revenue, and the other is the mitigation fund, which is used to offset the cost of operating, regulating, monitoring the operations, and that's another $200,000-$300,000 pool. My understanding is something that can be used for substance abuse education. I don't know if it's only community-based efforts or if it can be used as a resource for school.
We'll find out.
Check. Thanks, Rick. Kate, thank you very much,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
No problem.
I think you're staying on, right? So next up is, proposed revisions to the Abington Public Schools wellness policy that Kate's going to present to us.
Right. So I first want to thank all the members of the Wellness Committee. Solid, awesome group of 15 to 20 people made up of the health and wellness teachers, the nurses, support staff, Heidi on school committee, food services, Bernie and Jean, community members, a few parents, and some rock star students that were very excited to hang out with me after school to work on the Wellness Committee document. So kudos to them. There weren't too many changes, and nothing too large. In your packets, they're bold and italicized are the changes. Do you want me to go through them? How do you want? I could touch on a couple things that are just there, if you don't mind. Page 2, right in the middle of the page, that new bullet, the carb count menus will be made available to everybody. Currently, they're made available to the school nurses. I asked for those to be posted everywhere for all parents and kids to
I
see.
think they are on, if you print out the online one though, I think it does have it, because that's usually what I have, and it does have carb counts there on stuff,
Okay.
so.
Great. And then if you skip to page 4, the strikeout in the middle of the page, that website's no longer up and running, so that's why the strikeout was there. Page 5, school-sponsored events. The committee thought it would be beneficial to strike this out because it is mentioned in other parts of the document, including the opening paragraph, where it says that this document only applies to the school day plus or 30 minutes, beginning and end. So school-sponsored events, dances, proms, football games are well outside that half hour. And then page 7, the Safe Routes to School strikeout, that is no longer a program.
So can I just say something about that one? That was a grant. So it's not that we aren't interested in, we're going to continue to work in getting kids safely to school. We are. But that grant doesn't exist anymore, so. Or we're not making use of it. That's because it may exist, but we're not making use of it, so.
Yeah.
While I'm here, I would like to thank Teresa Minahan for helping to type this up and look as nice as nice as it does. That's total credit to her.
Does anybody have any questions on this policy?
I have a question which actually goes back to the curriculum, but it reminded me, seeing that bullet added about, carb count menus being available. Do you guys talk about, like eating disorders and that type of thing? Maybe I just missed it on the slides, but it's.
Yeah, I don't think I did outline
Okay,
it, so I'm glad you brought
what
that up.
years is that covered in the?
Seventh,
curriculum?
eighth, I'd have to go double check which grade of seventh and eighth. And then absolutely in high school, in several classes of the high school. It does come up in Mind, Body, Spirit, ninth grade health, it'll come up again in 10th grade, current issues as well.
Good question.
Great, yeah. Anybody else? Okay, if not, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the revisions to the Abington Public Schools Wellness Policy as presented by Mrs. Casey.
Make a motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All set. Kate, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah. Next, announcement of the Chester J. Millette Jr. Outstanding Teacher and Support Personnel Award winners. Dr. Fedorowicz,
Hi, good evening.
how are you?
Tonight, I'm going to announce the winners of the annual School Committee's Chester Millette Jr. Outstanding Teacher and Educational Support Personnel winners. So on behalf of the school department and the administrative team, we'd like to congratulate Becky Lennon, a third grade teacher at the Woodsdale Elementary School, for receiving the 2022 Outstanding Teacher Award. We also want to congratulate Laura Brink, a tutor at Beaverbrook Elementary School, for the Outstanding 2022 Educational Support Personnel winner. A special thank you to School Committee for having this award, as well as the volunteers that make up the committee that took the time and the effort to review all the applications and the nominations to come to a decision. So we had 3 parents, Pam Neely, Carolyn Russo, and Jen Fulton. We had 1 teacher who's also an AEA member, and that's Megan Keneally, and 1 administrator, Jessica Sullivan. So a big thank you to them for taking their time and effort to make this important decision. I also want to acknowledge and thank Teresa Minahan for all the work she did behind the scenes. She did the copious task of going through all the applications and removing any identifying information, so the applications are truly anonymous, and that was a big chunk of work, so thank you for that. And we're super appreciative of parents and students and teachers that all took the time to submit the nominations of these all well-deserving educators. It's a really difficult decision, and there's a lot of work to be done, but we do have an amazing group of teachers and educational support staff, and they're very well-deserving. And again, I just want to congratulate Becky Lennon and Laura Brink.
Thank you. Should I ask you one question?
Yeah.
Maybe it might be 2. So how many people were nominated, and how many nominations total did you receive? So I know it might be different numbers.
Yep, so we received 67 nominations,
Yep.
and within that, we had a couple duplicates. So there were 40 teachers and 11 educational support personnel.
Is that 67 more than you used to see when it was the paper forms, now that it's gone online?
So in working with Danielle last year, when we moved it to online, it went up significantly.
Okay.
So it was in the 100s. It went down a little bit this year.
Yep.
But it's still higher than it was when we had the paper applications,
Okay,
a lot
great,
more. So,
Great.
yeah,
Thank you.
it's a great idea.
Anybody else have anything?
I just wonder, I always wonder every year, just by nature of parents only having to worry about one classroom teacher. And I think it was fairly spread out across the schools, but do you know off the top of your head from those who were nominated, was it pretty even across the schools, or was it heavy on the elementary side?
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers on me. I can get those for you. It was pretty even, but we did have a little bit more at the elementary level. But we had representation from buildings.
I do think it's worth noting, someone had mentioned online that they missed the deadline and was it too late? And I think someone made a spectacular point, which is there's never a bad time to reach out to a teacher and tell them you think that they're fabulous. There's never a bad time to have your child write a card or a note to thank their teacher if it's someone that they feel has done a particularly good job. And our teachers work hard. And sometimes it's easy to see hiccups and not as easy to see the day-to-day brilliance that is often put out there. So, you know, if you miss the deadline, it's never too late to say, hey, thanks, we appreciate you.
That's a great point, Heidi. Thank you.
Thank you, Shari.
Okay, thanks.
Up next, report of the athletic director, Peter Serino, on the consideration of grade 8 participation in high school sports.
Thank you. I'll try and be brief. I know we talked about it in a previous meeting. So just to sum up, this year was the first year that I'm aware of that Abington High School sought and received an 8th grade waiver for multiple sports. Not every sport, as we didn't need it. So the MIA waiver process states that you have to have a need to be able to field the team or can sustain a program. So we did go for a number of sports. The overwhelming feedback was positive across the board. The update from the last meeting is now we have a spring season. I was just starting at the time of the last report. More positives. We had, in particular, the 2 programs that I think benefited the most were the boys and girls lacrosse programs. We were able to have legitimate JV schedules, whereas previous years it was really a stretch to make that happen, and they couldn't play full games or games were being canceled. So it's provided a much more genuine high school athletic experience for them. And then other teams have benefited as well. Softball, our numbers are significantly low, and just having a couple has allowed us to have a legitimate roster. And then track, it's been able to really create a true track experience for all of the kids that are there, rather than having to be stretched thin. So my hope is going into next year that we would continue to apply for it with the school committee's support for sports that we need it. I suspect, based off historical trends, most of the sports we used it for this year, we would be seeking it again. The exceptions would be our track programs. Our track numbers are very strong, and if we had a very large number of 8th graders participating this year, if they were all to continue as freshmen, there might not be a need. So just in full disclosure, there were some discussions with the MIA committee that approves it regarding our spring track. We were right on the edge numbers-wise as to if there was a need. So there is a potential that we could apply, and we may not receive the waiver. The one other update from the last meeting is I did reach out to all of the heads of the youth sports who were affected. And from all of them that I heard from, there was no negative. There was one cheerleading just mentioned that that group was a little thin, so I think we had 2 or 3 come up and participate, so it just made it even thinner. But they did mention that they had a contingency plan if that were to happen again to still allow that age group to participate. Across the board, not every representative from the various youth groups responded, but the majority did, and it was overwhelming support. They all handled it differently. Basketball, used as an example, the Surge, which is the boys' travel program, did not have those 8th graders who played on the high school team participate in their travel program, and the Waves, which is the girls' travel, did. And it seemed to work out both ways. That's up to the youth programs, but generally speaking, they were very supportive of how things went. So I would like to continue with it, with the waiver process in next year as we did this year.
This is an every year thing, right, Peter? It's something that gets done. It's not, we don't grant it in perpetuity or whatever, right? It's done every year.
So I think we could do it how this group prefers. So I will have to apply, as the MIA rule is currently written, it could change. I'll have to apply for every single sport individually. And last year, I think the way we said is we would go for the year to see it, and then I would come back to this group. I can apply for the waiver with the school committee's support. I don't know if I necessarily need a vote annually. That would be.
Would anybody want to change it to just remove the 2022-23 school year possibly and just make it as a thing? Or no, do you feel better hearing about it each year?
I don't need to hear about it each year.
Yeah.
Wendy, Heidi?
I don't really have a preference now
Okay.
over it.
Okay. So I guess we'll try it this way. I'll make a motion, so I'm gonna amend it slightly.
So if it was ever a problem, you could always come back and say you don't want to do it in the future. So
Okay.
if you want to do it and, and not have to do it every year,
Okay.
you can always put the brakes on at some point. if you-
Can I ask a question, though?
Yeah, of
Like,
course.
We would still see you, though, right, for updates?
I'm happy to come whenever you would
Yeah,
like.
that, I would appreciate that, even if it was just a couple, only be like twice a year even. or
Right.
something like
Yep,
that.
and I can include an update on the 8th grade process.
That's what I-
Whenever I come.
What sports you were applying for, if we're
Yep.
getting denied, that
Yeah, I
sort
can
of thing?
update
Yeah.
you just informationally, and then when I come to meetings, answer any questions
I'm
that you
fine
have.
with that.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve the participation of grade 8 students in high school sports. As is, no years. Look, anybody like to second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Does that work, that wording? Okay. All right, Peter, thank you.
Thank you. And just while I'm here, I just want to throw out two other quick things. One, I've heard a lot of questions in the community about girls' hockey. So we have started to explore that. This is the second time in the past probably 6 years. So we made an announcement for anyone who's interested. We had 23 girls express interest. Of those 23, 18 showed up to a meeting. Then I followed up with a survey. 14 of them responded to the survey. One of them has played hockey before. 2 of them know how to skate. 6 of them said after the meeting they were no longer interested at all. And 2 of them are interested in a varsity hockey situation. So while there is interest when the students actually heard about what it entailed and thought about it, it pared back. That doesn't mean we're stopping. Gonna do some more follow-up with some individual kids. I think the most likely way to pursue girls hockey at Abington High School will be through a co-op at this point. So I will keep you updated, but to find a co-op partner, we would have to bring something to the table. So for 1 or 2, they might rather go with another school that can provide 5 or 6. I don't know if that's the case, but I have got a lot of questions, so I just wanted to publicly state that and share that.
How many, are only 2 schools allowed to do a co-op, or can we have multiple towns, like?
Yep, that's a good question. So you can have multiple towns. The MIA, there's a process that you have to apply for. They have started to crack down on it, and it's tougher, but you certainly can do 3 schools. So about 5 or 6 years ago, when we went through this process, our plan was to do a tri-co-op with Rockland and Hull. And between the 3 of us, at the finish line, we had 7 maybes and no definites. So obviously that didn't work. I will say the school that is most likely to partner with at this point would be Norwell High School. We're just exploring that. They have an established program, but their numbers are dipping. So there is a potential there. And then Rockland also, our kids play with them in youth, those who do play hockey. So it's kind of a natural fit. But from my conversations with their athletic director, they're at a similar place where we're just not quite there yet, but it's something that we continue to look at.
Thank you.
And lastly, just it's the 50th anniversary of Title IX, so on June 15th at 6:30 in the auditorium, we'll be hosting a celebration and recognition of Title IX specific to Abington High School. Our graduating senior, Faith Ryan, has been working on a video throughout the spring that will kind of tell the history of Title IX at Abington. And then we will have 2 panels, a panel of 5 current students to discuss their experiences and 5 successful alumni as well. And it'll be followed by an ice cream social sponsored by the Green White Boosters. So we'd love to have some people come out and support that. And we'll have a formal announcement of that later this week or early next week.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Actually, I have 2, if that's all right. So the first one is Title IX. Can you just explain that a little bit for anyone at home that might not know?
Sure. It's, I'll try and be brief, but essentially equity of opportunities in, as far as I'm looking at it and celebrating in sports specifically, but in terms of gender equity is kind of the biggest place. It definitely comes up in other places as well. So, the exploration of girls hockey is one. Recently, we've been able to add volleyball just to create equitable opportunities for males and females.
Awesome, thank you. And then the last one I have is the MIA director came out with the training for the bias training that was attached to the applications. Do you know what the status is on that?
So I'm unaware. So just for clarity, you're referencing in late fall, prior to the winter sports season, the MIA announced a new requirement, asked all coaches, administrators, and student athletes to sign a diversity, equity, and inclusion pledge, and required the same group to take an implicit bias course through the National Federation of High School Sports. It's an online course. I reached out last week to get an update from one of the assistant directors at the MIA, and I have not heard back from him. So I will continue to follow up on that and provide the Superintendent Schaefer with the updates.
They implemented it as a requirement, and then it ultimately was a pilot.
Correct, yes. Initially, we were told it was a requirement and they must do it to play. And then they sort of backed off that a little bit and said, we'll update you at the end of the school year for next year. There was no consequence if you did not do it, after originally saying you must do it.
Right. And we had our students do it for winter and some for spring. So we're not supposed to do pilots unless it goes through the school committee. So that's why we scaled it back. And then I think other communities are having the same issue with it. So it's up in the air.
And I'm guessing you thought it was required at the time.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, the language actually said,
Yeah.
I believe
Okay.
it said you must take it. It was required. So the timing of it in the winter was after our online registration, so we actually did paper copies.
Okay.
Most of our teams in the winter, not all, but most did it as a team. The coach played the class and had a conversation. Some had, the school resource officers come in and have a conversation around it. And then for the spring, because of the timing, we were able to add it to our online registration, similar to the concussion policy, the opioid policy, all of the catch-all that of society's problems that athletics need to address. We added it into that. And about halfway through, we got clarification that it was just a pilot, and then that's when we removed it from our registration.
Okay. Well, thank you, and yeah, please keep us updated.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. Yep, I know, she just told me. So the report of the Director of Student Services, I know Dr. Robbins couldn't be here tonight, so Peter is going to take that piece of it.
So James wishes he could be here. He's sorry that he can't. He wanted me to inform the committee that the Special Education Parents Advisory Council, the CPAC, is sponsoring an Excellence in Special Education Award. It's open to any special education service provider, teachers, related service providers, psychologists, speech language therapists, OTs, PTs, paraprofessionals, tutors, anyone who's a service provider in special education. CPAC has this open, has sent out a link for people to fill out to nominate someone. Everyone who's nominated will be made aware of the nomination, and then they will elect a winner, and that will be announced. But this is open from May 23rd until May 31st. Again, the deadline for getting those applications or nominations in is May 31st.
Great, thank you. Next up, principal reports. Mr. McCurtain for Abington Middle School, the school improvement plan.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present our school improvement plan for the upcoming school year. I want to start just by thanking our members of our school council. Those are Assistant Principal Jessica Sullivan, staff members Allison Ferrigno and James Gorman, parents Renee Lindo and Pam Neely, and our school committee liaison this year. I'm not an official member of the council, but a big part of what we do is Mr. Coyle. So thank you very much. In your packet, you should have the complete plan. Before the goals in the plan, there's a section with some recent highlights for Abington Middle School. I'll go through a few of those. We had the addition of multiple positions and staff members that had a positive impact. We were able to add a STEAM teacher. The addition of the STEAM teacher removes the need for math or science teachers to instruct STEAM classes. It allows us to run more of those sections, reducing the class sizes for those. We added midway through the year this year, I believe the beginning of March was around the start time for the full-time adjustment counselor, which allows us to provide those services to a wider array of students. In addition, we were able to make some programmatic changes to bring a partial inclusion program to grades 7 and 8. The partial inclusion piece is something that has always been in place up through grade 6, but grade 7 and above have not had that opportunity. So this program now allows us to have students in grades 7 and 8 who require some additional intervention for ELA or mathematics to have those programs outside of the general education classroom while still being able to be in the inclusion setting for the remainder of their school day. That's supported with special education teacher and a tutor. We did include an extended homeroom period on Wednesdays that is becoming an advisory period for us, which is nice. And we use that for instruction of the Second Step program. And we also were able to bring back the Boost after-school tutoring program that was begun last summer. I know we had some previous conversations about that in previous meetings. It was actually last spring, not last summer. And that program has run throughout the entirety of this school year, and we've seen some positive benefit from that. That's a small group advisory-ish program. Any questions about those pieces? Heidi?
I see here that you're planning to expand it multiple days per week.
Yes.
Is that still to work on the social emotional, or are you looking at other areas as well?
We'll be looking at other areas. That's also part of the next few bullet items here.
So, okay, so similar to what the high school is doing then with the
Yeah, very much
advisory.
so. I mean, we're really looking at that opportunity to bring this in as like an advisory sort of program where we can address issues that we know we need to address. In particular, and part of, off the script I was planning on here, but that's okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine, absolutely. If we go back to some of the work that was done by Dr. Basta and a group of administrators here in the spring of 2020, Dr. Michelle, I believe, that included some subgroups of Abington educators and parents that were questioned, and they identified executive functioning as an area of need for grades 7 through 12. So we're really looking at the expansion of that to bring in an executive functioning program for all of our students. When we look at what the successes of the Boost program has provided, really what's being done there is some tutoring, but it's a lot of the executive functioning skills that students have needed. Planning and prioritization, time management, task initiation, perseverance is something that we've seen across the board. We want to bring that to the broader audience of the entire school building. And that's what that particular expansion is going to provide us to be able to do.
That sounds amazing, thank you.
Ruin the rest of my presentation, but
Yeah, no, there we
I
go.
gave a decent answer to that. There are 2 goals in the school improvement plan. Goal number 1, increase student achievement through enhancements to curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And goal 2, to continue to cultivate a safe and welcoming, inclusive school community that builds on existing strengths and increases students' social, emotional, and executive functioning skill level. This plan is really built around the opportunities that are presented to us through the addition of the positions that we have from the ESSER grant funding. That is the school adjustment counselor, who's going to help us with transitions into the building, into the high school. It's built around the inclusion of some interventionists that we have not been able to have before, but we'll have math interventionists and a literacy specialist. So part of this plan includes development of a schedule that will allow for those interventions to happen effectively and essentially not pull away from what those students are receiving in other classrooms. All of that is tied into that expanded homeroom for portions, because some of those students who require a lot of intervention, when you give them a lot of intervention, they miss a lot of other things too. So that period is a time when they can actually be pulled for those items. Included there in goal 1 is also looking at extracurricular intervention programming. I mentioned Boost. We've also done some work with National Honor Society at the high school, providing tutoring after school that's open-ended. Boost is invitation, that's open-ended. And looking at creating, like I said, a schedule that will allow for academic interventions with those new positions that are being provided for us. Under goal 2, we're looking at the WAVE PBIS program, and I need to apologize. I got lost in acronym land, and I wrote PBLL, which are our project-based learning labs. I'll fix that before this is published. However, that program has developed over the course of time. It was slowed down like everything else was during the pandemic. It's come back strong this year. Jessica Sullivan, who is here, has really taken a hold of that, then runs our committee, our WAVE committee. We think it's important at this point to bring more student voice into that. So we'll have students as part of that committee to begin to help develop that further along. And we actually just held a student survey during one of those extended homerooms that was focused on trying to get from our students what they believe those core tenets of WAVE mean. So that's what that survey was. And we had just over 600 responses. So that committee will be spending some time going through there and really gathering an understanding of where our students are as far as understanding what that means. And that'll help us to develop that further. We'll be looking at, when we bring in a social, not social emotional, executive functioning program, we'll incorporate some professional development for staff that's likely to happen during common planning times and staff meetings. So not to pull away from the PD that's being offered. There was a good question earlier about departmental PD. We want to make sure we can get back to providing that as much as possible. Wendy?
Can I ask a quick question? The program for the, oh my God, I lost it.
Executive function.
Yes, the executive functioning, thank you. Can you give me an example?
Of the program itself?
Yeah, like of what, something that you would bring in? It's for the students?
It's for the students, so it's
Right.
directed instruction of those skills. Looking at those skills, you're looking at, like I said, planning and prioritization, organizational skills, impulse control, self-control, time management, attention, flexible thinking, working memory, metacognition.
And who would be teaching them?
Our homeroom teachers. and
Okay, the
special
homeroom
education
teachers.
Yep.
All right, and then can you tell me what the SEL lessons are?
Currently, we use Second Step, which is used at Woodsdale and Beaverbrook, so we have moved into the middle school version of that program. So what part of the work that the adjustment counselor and our group will be doing is taking a look at those lessons that were run this year. This was year one of implementation of that, and looking at the ones that really were effective and helpful, and we want to continue with and grow, and which ones may have been a little too repetitive based on previous year's learning. It can be moved into different other curriculum areas. For instance, Kate talked about the health curriculum, and a lot of that is incorporated there. So that there may be ones that the health teachers take more hold of than the current teachers that are doing it. So.
I have a question. I'm sorry. So the executive functioning, are you looking at a specific program or is it more just targeted hitting?
We'd be looking at a specific program. James Robbins was going to help speak to that today because James has volunteered to help identify the programming that he has. So he's sent me a link today to 3 different programs that are research and evidence-based, including one that is written by an author who actually just presented at CPAC. I can't pull the name out of my head.
I was going to say, several years ago, CPAC had someone come in and talk about executive
Yeah.
functioning. And I think some of the misconceptions are students who struggle with executive functioning are the ones who are oftentimes the ones who are struggling in class. And oftentimes it's actually the other way. A lot of your high-flying students really struggle with executive functioning. And they're just very good at kind of figuring it out. So these are things like everything else. For some people, it comes naturally. For some people, it needs to be taught more systematically. So it's nice to see because these are the skills that they will take into the real world someday. And so I'm excited to see that this is being put into place so that the academics can then fall into it. And it just makes it all a little bit more accessible for all the students.
Can we get the links just to look at? Like, I know that we don't make the decision really, but yeah.
Yeah, let me
just to
talk
see what you guys
talk
are
to Dr. Robbins.
Awesome, thank you.
You look like Yanko.
Just one. It just goes to goal 1, and increasing student achievement happens when students are behaving. And I'm just wondering if we've seen increased behavior incidents post-COVID that have been reported, and not just middle school, but among staff. I'm seeing it myself, and I was just wondering, is there honest conversation happening around these issues are you noticing an increase in behavior in the classroom? Because I know for sure students, teachers can pour their hearts and souls into attempting to increase that student achievement, but if there are some increases in behavior, that's definitely going to affect the teacher's effectiveness of
Sure, absolutely. And,
delivering
you know, I think
that.
that's, like you're indicating, it's something that I think every school
Yeah.
coming out of the pandemic experience, you know, if you look again at the plan that we're presenting, we have students who lost 2 years. Most of our students were back at least part-time last year, but there were a lot of students who still were not in the school building until this past September. That's 2 years of academics at a crucial and critical time. It's 2 years of just socialization that happens, skills that kids learn playing and interacting that didn't happen. So that's essentially really one of the driving forces behind putting these things in place. So yes, we're seeing it. We have teachers who are being incredibly empathic in helping to understand students. We have lucky enough to have an assistant principal who shares those same qualities and works directly with kids and families around, you know, let's get you back to the classroom. Let's not send you home. We very rarely send kids out of the building. We try and make sure that they have that. But yes, you're 100% correct. And we're hoping that through the real implementation of a program that meets multiple times per week where kids develop a positive relationship with members of the teaching staff that are able to show that they care about them as people for a dedicated period of time and not have to move directly into a math lesson or a science lesson to do it. We're hopeful that will help.
Helping just the students to recognize their behaviors and to help.
Self-management, self-control,
and
awareness. Yep.
So I just wanted to acknowledge that you have a huge job to do with managing the post-COVID behavior. So
But a good opportunity to positively affect the group. So.
Can I just
Yeah, I got one thing I want to ask.
just say that's K through 12?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, for sure.
especially the younger,
Yeah.
the students, I want to say, the more isolated they may have been during that time period. Not that the older students weren't, but they were, you know, for a 6-year-old that's learning how to play, and they weren't playing. So we see it at recess, we see it in classrooms, we see it at the high school. But we've got resilient kids, and I would, you know, and our teachers are really good at what they do, so we're at least moving in the right direction.
Danielle, I should have mentioned that if one of the bullet points speaks to development of specific lessons to reach out about things that we're seeing like that. I think in the plan I mentioned bullying, harassment, intimidation, those things, but that committee that meets is made up of teachers who are looking at those things. Jessica's able to bring an accounting of all the reports that have been sent to the office, and they can really look at the trends and patterns and identify areas where we need to make an impact.
And is that included in the after-school, I see the after-school social emotional support programming as well, trying to
Yeah.
identify clubs that we can,
I feel like it's important to put that in there. We've had a wonderful experience with the Compass internship program. In part, those are social work interns that help support our students during the day.
Okay.
And part of their requirements is to do some group work. In the last few years, we've asked them to do group work after school. So it's not the same every year. It's not the same group of students every year. 2 years ago, just before, actually more than 2 years ago, 2019, the fall of 2019, those interns that we had at that point, we had a lot of young ladies who were having some difficulty with relationships and growing up as a young woman in middle school. And they reacted to that, and when we met, and we had a girls group that met after school weekly and then twice weekly because they just liked being there, and it had a positive impact. They're part of the impetus behind bringing the Alliance program that has been a positive thing for our students here too. So looking at what we're able to do after school, it provides an important opportunity for our students. And honestly, there are days when there are 150 kids here after school for band or for Minecraft, or we had a Dungeons and Dragons club in Boost, and it's just great to see. And if we can provide opportunities that aren't not just student interest-based, but also make a positive impact on them, emotionally, socially, physically, then we should.
Matt, I got one thing. It has to do with the last block, the transitioning planning. So obviously the collaboration with Woodsdale, like I know that occurs, and it's gonna be back to quote unquote normal. If they haven't come here already, this year it'll be much more normal than it has been. And I think the transition from 8th to high school is one that people know of, goes without saying. I do think there needs to, if we can try to also focus on the transition from 6 to 7, because that's elementary to secondary. And I know it sometimes gets lost in the shuffle of all being in one building, but it is a big change for a lot of kids. And just hearing things, that's one of the blocks where sometimes the transition does, where everybody sees it happening from 4 to 5, everybody sees it happening from 8 to 9, but from 6 to 7, just to work to make sure it's happening as well as it can there as well.
You're echoing conversations that have happened at our student support team. You know, I don't want to put too much importance on the one position being added to the school, but having the full-time adjustment counselor, we've worked with our guidance counselor and our adjustment counselor to look at these transition opportunities.
Yeah.
We'll be able to provide some transition activities for our grade 6 and the 7 students. We go back to before Abington Middle School was a thing, and we had 5 and 6 at
Right,
Wooddale,
yeah,
7
yeah.
at Frollo. There were visits that were held at 6th grade classrooms. They really provided an opportunity for the kids to see the schedule and how things moved around. So we'll be able to do some of that, and then we're actually going to mimic that with grade 4. So Mr. Hawes has worked out dates with us to have visits to the 4th grade,
Yeah.
where they can have those same types of activities, and then, yeah, they'll do the visit here. That's a great day.
And yeah, I think, like, in fact, like it mentions, like including a tour, school classroom visits, it's easy here for a 6th grader to go
Right.
tour the 7th grade classrooms at some part, even if it's taking one of those Wednesday mornings. I mean, I don't know how it works, but like, at some point, I think it can get worked in to the schedule in some way, shape, or form.
It's a good idea.
Does anybody else have anything? No? Matt, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Rick, go ahead. What do you got?
More things. Just kind of echo what you just said, this is a parent and a fifth grader. The biggest takeaway I've heard from other conversations with other parents is that transition from 4th to 5th feels bumpier than it should. That, you know, of course, there's always going to be a step in expectations going from 4th grade to 5th grade. From going from the Woodsdale to here, we lost 2 years, so I understand that's part of it. But that seems to be one of the larger things that a lot of parents are experiencing as well. So whatever focus can be given towards that, maybe it'll be easier in the years to come as we're able to get back into the new sense of normal. But particularly for those who have lost kind of those years, this step has been very large. And I think there's been a lot of kids who have stumbled a bit. So however that plays into it, we appreciate it.
Sure, so part of having the adjustment counselor go to the Woodsdale school is that's the person who will begin to build a relationship with the students at that current location, and then continue that relationship with them as they enter middle school. So though her involvement will be there, but then also during the first weeks of school in grade 5, she'll be back in the classroom doing some more lessons, some more transition activities, and beginning to continue to hopefully smooth the bumps that you're speaking to.
Thanks, Matt. I think we're all set. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Up next, Mr. Hawes, Woodsdale Elementary School. And I just want to publicly say congratulations on your new role. We'll miss you. Thank you very much for all you've done for Abington.
Thanks, I
Yeah,
really
thanks for
appreciate
leaving
that.
us.
I'm very proud of the work that we've done at the Woodsdale School in the last 5 years. I'm very proud of that team, and yeah, it's been a wonderful opportunity. It's a really great place to grow, and aside from the wonderful people that work and learn at Woodsdale each day, I've been really, really grateful to have such a supportive community and leadership team. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've picked up the phone to call like one of my teammates, either as a guy who didn't really know what he was doing yet, or someone who's pretty sure he knows what he's doing but wants to bounce something off, you know, in a really judgment-free way, in a collaborative way. And I can only hope to replicate that next in Hingham, because it's something that I hope Jennifer sort of taps into as well and relies on, because as much growth as I've done and my team's done, I've had a ton of help from the community as well. I'm really appreciative of all you guys.
Thank you.
Let's jump into some business though,
Let's
right?
go for it.
Okay, great. So before I start with the 22 to 23 school improvement plan, I want to just touch upon a couple of items from last year's plan. Relative to goal one of the things I'm really proud of and has a lot of connections to all corners of the Woodsdale School is the amount of technology integration that's happened. Aside from the fact that we have a wonderful technology department that has provided us with the actual tools to do some of the things that we've been able to do, such as sharing, and training with our staff to get them up to speed with the Microsoft Office universe, but also for our students as well. The work that Rich and Vicki have done to integrate the technology into our classrooms is really important. And to date, our students construct and compose their work digitally. They share with either educators, myself, or each other their assignments. They take assessments online. All that's really, really great in a vacuum, but to do it with 9 and 10-year-olds, it's really impressive. So I'm really proud of the ways that our staff has continued to not only utilize the technology that we have at our disposal, but also the Canvas integration that we've seen over the last few years. It's been really helpful, and it's been a wonderful product to experience even at the elementary level. Our students sign on, they get their assignments through there, they read, they annotate, they share, they submit assignments, and they take their assessments all in a digital way. And so I'm really proud of that, and so I wanted to make sure that I highlighted that because it has a lot of connections to Goal 1. In Goal 3, I'm really proud of our Woodsdale Owl Award program because there are so many opportunities for a kid in our school to get recognized for something they did on a day, something they continue to do week after week or day after day, and even just their growth relative to their peers. What I'm also proud of is the work that our staff has put in to refer these students and to recognize these students. To date, we've earned, our kids have earned 1,600 Owl Awards. So if you take a look at that over the course, here we sit with 20-odd school days left, that's 10 kids a day on average are being recognized or are a recipient of an award that connects to either our overarching character focus areas or the specific monthly character focus area. I'm proud of that goal. Moving on to the school improvement plan for this year, we've kept the same 3 goals. The first goal is to implement practices to challenge students, support academic and social emotional needs, and further technology utilization. Goal 2 creates opportunities for increased community connections. And Goal 3 provides a healthy and safe learning environment through effective leadership and operations. Even though these school improvement plans are scintillating, I'm only going to touch upon the same thing, just the one or so item within each of the goals. Action item 1 within Goal 1 is to support, evaluate, and implement the balanced literacy approach to English language arts. We continue to address elements relative to balanced literacy and literacy instruction as a whole at Woodsdale. To continue into next year, TLA will be providing coaching for reading workshop. We're anticipating 6 sessions next year. We'll also be addressing our scope and sequence, editing the documents that we have internally, and reflecting the work that was done this year in 21 and 22, as well as the reading department's curriculum plan. Next year, we'll be focusing on formalized writing programming for both 3rd and 4th grade. Right now, it's in place for grade 3, and we'll be expanding that into grade 4 for next year. Providing training and coaching for staff to continue to build their toolkits for strategies relative to reading workshop, conferencing, writing, phonics instruction. And lastly, something we spent a significant amount of time on last year and will continue into, this year and will continue into next year is building out our classroom libraries. Aside from the text that students can check out from their classroom libraries that are on the shelves, we've also built out a library of mentor texts for educators to borrow either from the shelves right in their classroom or from our reading department. And these texts have connections to the skills that we are deploying within reading. Lastly, book club sets have been ordered or replenished to support student needs as well as reading workshop needs. Goal 1, action item 5, is to revisit processes and protocols to support the needs of identified subgroups within the WES population. In the last couple of years, we've undergone some building out of programs and changing of programs, specifically the way our partial inclusion instruction happens for special education, as well as our TLC integration. I'm one of the most successful programs at the Woodsdale School is the TLC program. We've added special educators, we've added paraprofessionals, the opportunities for these students who are our students with the highest level of need in the school to be integrated to the extent that they are is really impressive. And the testament goes to the staff that pushes for that integration, not only the special education staff, but the work that they do with our general education classroom teachers. Not everybody is a special education teacher at heart, and not everybody understands the comprehensive needs that these students have. And to be welcoming and integrate them into the education and learning opportunities, as well as the social learning opportunities to the extent that they have, is really impressive. So we want to continue to revisit that and expand that. Last year, through the Director of Student Services, we had a program review of our TLC program. I believe it's TLC programs at both Beaverbrook and at Woodsdale. And we took the recommendations seriously. We transitioned from somewhat of individualized instruction in past years to really group and collaborative instruction for the TLC and the partial inclusion students. And we've seen immediate returns over the course of this school year for those. We'll also be increasing our EL staffing and the way in which that staff is utilized. It's a really robust population of our school, as is special education. So to know that next year we'll have our most comprehensive EL team. We'll have a full-time Woodsdale EL educator. We'll have a part-time person, someone who will be splitting their time between Beaverbrook, or actually possibly middle school and Woodsdale, and also the full-time EL tutor. Our EL population, we anticipate over the next couple of years, looking at the grade 1 tree numbers, is only going to continue to grow. We're at just about 40 students, and we anticipate to be at about 50 students by the close of next school year. So to know that the school is built out next year with our strongest EL team makes us feel good. In goal 3, a new goal for this plan is to establish a response to the social emotional needs that were identified within our student survey. So this year, our health and wellness teacher, Jackie Gurry, she helped us facilitate a survey of our students. It's similar to the survey that was done at Abington Middle and High School. The changes relative to the questions were really only about language. The sentiment of the question was the same, just sort of scaling it down and making sure that the language made sense for our 9 and 10-year-olds. We got some immediate and interesting results from that survey. It asked students everything from how they handle and articulate stress and stressors in their life, how they feel about the environment at Woodsdale School, whether they feel themselves, their culture, or their peers are well represented. And it was a total of 15 questions. It was done through our health classes. And so analyzing those results and putting some immediate action items into place through our social work interns, generally just our classroom teachers and morning meeting topics, and all school focus areas will be something that we'll be doing in the upcoming school year.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you, Jonathan. Anybody have any questions?
Okay. Before I close, Peter had asked me to just to touch upon a couple of areas of Woodsdale School to let you know where we're at as we encounter an exciting transition. And so I'll be not only recapping just some of the things that we've done in the areas of ELA, mathematics, and social emotional learning, but these are also the areas that I'll be bringing Jen Baresi up to speed in. So for language arts, we've been continuing our coaching model through TLA. They've been working with us to help develop our workshop structure. This year, within our coaching cycles, they included modeling, ensuring core components of reading workshop were in place, such as the mini lesson, mid-workshop teaching points, reading conferencing, etc. Next year, the coaching cycle will extend these practices, engage each educator's individual ownership of the components and skills. Curriculum-wise, we'll be continuing to develop our ELA curriculum with help from our educators, including our reading specialists. Outside of reading workshop, we don't have a finalized scope and sequence for phonics, word study, vocabulary, and writing, and so we'll be working to make progress in those areas next year. Grade 3 made excellent gains this year establishing a formal writing program, and we'll look to, as I referred to earlier, we'll be looking to continue that with grade 4. And we've also been working, as I referenced in the school improvement plan, to build out our classroom libraries, which now include mentor texts to go along with workshop themes and focus areas. Fiction and nonfiction books on our shelves have been updated. They match the appropriate reading levels of our students, and they represent the many cultures and backgrounds of our student population. Within mathematics, we've been using an adjusted scope and sequence for the past few years. We did some work with Looney Consultants a couple of summers ago to take really what was the old envisioned structure and align it both to updates to the mathematics curriculum frameworks, but also to make sure that we had a scope and sequence of skills that made sense for us. We'll be also continuing to work with Looney in the years to come to transition away from our current program, Savvis and Visions, and adopt a program that we've got a couple that are on the table. And in addition to the program materials that they would provide, also be looking at some homegrown content for assessments within mathematics. And our hope is that we can find a program that really meets the needs. There's a specific need, hands-on application within mathematics and discovery. So we're hoping that the programs that we have lined up for us provide those opportunities. Lastly, for social emotional learning, we've been utilizing Second Step, and we'll continue to use this in the future. Our school psychologists and social work interns have created modules for our classrooms to use, and the program itself takes students through a progression of skills and topics. Those overarching skills and topics are self-identity, making personal change, inner coaching, emotional regulation, and community. That work is on top of the work that our classrooms already do within morning meeting and our monthly character focus areas. We use also our monthly all-school meetings to engage students within these character areas. We discuss and define each monthly trait. We talk about how it feels, how would it feel if they were embodying that trait, how would it feel to show this trait in both the school and in the community. We also anchor each trait with a book, which is read aloud via video, discuss with students the traits and the connections within that book, and the teachers throughout the month are on the lookout for students who exhibit these traits, past traits, monthly traits, etc. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one quick question. I probably should have asked it before, but when you mentioned reading workshop, I had mentioned before, I probably always bring it up, I just always wonder how the teacher feedback cycle goes. So as we're implementing that, has the teacher feedback been positive? Are they satisfied with the presenters and trainers? Are we moving in the right direction with that?
I think so. We've had some level of discomfort, as you do when you're receiving feedback about anything. And we had a new coach this year. So in the first couple of cycles, there was some feeling out to do. It was, I think educators or just people in general often have a tendency to shape feedback in the ways of what am I doing wrong versus what am I doing that should be celebrated. And I think immediately defenses were up, and I think we did a good job over the course of the coaching cycle to help our educators understand that they're really invested in our progress, the coach and the group that we're working with, and we'll get out of it as much as we're willing to put into it. So I feel like we're really happy with the product. Bottom line is we don't have within our district leadership team or even within our educators, we're not experts in reading workshop. But the group that we're working with, they are. And so I think it's been really important to have that focus, understand that this is not something that's innate, it's not something that's been built out over the last 10 years in Abington Public School. It's a new venture. So we're happy to be working with people that are the experts in that area.
You had mentioned the student surveys. I was wondering
Yeah.
if we can get a breakdown of, what their reactions were to this, not just for this school, but for all the schools, just so that we all kind of know. And I also just wanted to say, I'm gonna miss you. Like, I was on your committee.
I remember.
At Beaver Brook for the assistants, and you were just like so exciting to me, so innovative, and I'm really sad to see you go. I've never had to worry about Woodsdale, I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, whenever I think of the schools, it was just like, I'd not overlook it, but I just always thought that between you and your team, you had everything under control, and I don't know, wherever you're going to next, you said it's Hingham?
Hingham Public Schools.
Hingham, yeah. They're very lucky to have you. I hope you come back here someday.
Thanks, Wendy. That makes me feel good. And you are right, the team there, they're good. Woodsdale will continue to be in really good hands because of the strength. That team is packed with talent and people that really care a ton. And so you can't go wrong if you get those two qualities.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we didn't steal you, but you were in Marshfield, and then you came here, and
Yeah.
everybody knows you were at the Beaver Brook as the assistant principal for a year.
Mhm.
Then you developed as administrator as fast as anybody does. You evolved. And it's been my pleasure to work with you because similar to the last series of comments, Wendy said it very well. I haven't had to worry because I know you've got the Woodsdale and I know your team has the Woodsdale. And that's most importantly, although it's nice that I didn't have to worry, you've benefited kids in Abington.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawes. Next up, Pete, you only have one thing left now, because we already hit the other one. Field trip request for the music and art departments to New York City from next April 28th to the 30th.
And even Felicia did my last one. I didn't do
It's
that.
true.
So before the committee, we have, because this is an out-of-state overnight trip, I'd ask you to consider the art and music department would like to go to New York City. This is for April of next year. They need time to be able to plan, fundraise. Estimated cost of students is $750. We anticipate a 10-to-1 ratio of staff, of students to staff, not the other way around. And this is a trip that we did regularly. And I'm happy just that I'm bringing these to you for your consideration.
These forms look familiar, though. We haven't seen them in a long
Been a while.
time. Is it high school?
It is high school.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I think it's fabulous.
So I'll be looking for a motion to approve the Music and Art Department's field trip request to New York City from April 28, 2023 till April 30th, 2023, as presented by Mr. Schaefer.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
New business and establishment of our next meeting. It'll be Tuesday, June 21st, 2022 at 7 o'clock here in the library, barring anything unforeseen. Is there anything? There's a bunch of informational things for anybody, some dates to remember, a lot of dates to remember. Wednesday, May 25th, so tomorrow night, grade 7 and 8 spring concert in the auditorium at 7. Thursday's the last day of school for seniors as well as their class barbecue on Riley Field at 6:30. Next Tuesday is the music banquet at the Abington Senior Center at 6. Next Wednesday, senior athletic awards night at the middle school cafeteria at 6. Thursday, senior awards night in the auditorium. Next Friday, senior stroll starts at 8:45. For those that don't know, they go to every school building and just kind of go through the hallways. It's their last day. And they have graduation rehearsal later. Saturday, June 4th, 10 a.m. on the front lawn is the seniors' graduation. Monday, June 6th, underclass awards in the auditorium. Wednesday, June 8th is the grade 5 and 6 spring concert at 7 o'clock in the auditorium. Wednesday, June 15th is what Mr. Serino mentioned earlier about the Title IX in Abington, how it was affected. I believe he said 6:30 was the start time. And finally, Thursday, June 23rd is the last day of school for students that are not seniors in Abington this year. So next, we are going to go into executive session. I want to go into executive session by a roll call vote for the
Chris?
purpose.
Sorry, can I interrupt? The music banquet is not at the senior center. Just if anyone's using that.
Do you know where it is?
Here.
Okay.
I believe it's in the courtyard.
Okay.
So I just didn't want anyone to look at that and expect it to be there when it's not.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything before? So I'd like to go in executive session by roll call vote for the purposes of, that's a lot of letters. According to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy for negotiations with the AEA Units A and B. Since holding this discussion in open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee, and in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct a strategy session in preparation for negotiations with the following non-union personnel: Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, Director of Student Services, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and any principals and assistant principals, and we will not return to regular session. So I'll start off with a yes in the roll
Yes.
call. Wendy?
Yes.
Heidi?
Yes.
Danielle? Julie? Thank you very much, and everybody have a good night.